Hi, kids. Welcome to another episode of Bible Stories with Your Mom. Today, we are on chapter 10 still, kind of in the middle, top of the page of 118. We are talking about the history of Israel, kings and prophets of the northern kingdom. It's a very windy day out today, but that is no excuse for my hair because I have not been outside. Anyway, let us proceed. I did do a little research on names today. Hopefully, I will do better than yesterday. I am frankly a little embarrassed about yesterday. I am seeing a name that I forgot to look up, so I will still struggle with one, but we shall proceed. So, history of northern Israel, kings and prophets of the northern kingdom. The history of northern Israel is a tale of divine judgment on religious apostasy, political treachery, and brutal murder. I feel like there's a lot of that in the Old Testament. I feel like that might be a common theme. Again, I'm looking forward to the New Testament. Anyway, none of the kings repented and abandoned the sin of Jeroboam, which was idolatry. Some, like Ahab, even promoted the worship of Canaanite gods. Jeroboam's dynasty did not last long, as this is the one I didn't look up, but I should have. Asia, Asia, Aja had predicted. Nadab continued in the ways of his father and ruled for only 2 years. He was assassinated by Baasha while engaged in the siege of a city. Baasha seized the throne and immediately killed all of Jeroboam's descendants. Although he was not a descendant of Jeroboam, Baasha followed his example and practiced idolatry. He fought constantly with Asa, king of Judah, and made Tirzah the capital of Israel. His idolatry stirred up the anger of the Lord, who sent Jehu to warn Baasha that he and his family would suffer the same fate as the family of Jeroboam. After 24 years, Baasha's son Elah, I looked it up and I still can't remember. Elah, I think, became king, but ruled only for 2 years before he was assassinated by Zimri. Zimri murdered all of Baasha's family and even his friends. Baasha and Ela, maybe I have dementia. Maybe I just don't pay attention. Elah. Baasha and Elah had provoked God to anger by worshiping worthless idols. Zimri's rule lasted 7 days. Wow, that's the shortest one yet. When the army learned Zimri had assassinated the royal family, they rebelled and made Omri their general, king of Israel. Omri attacked Tirzah, and when Zimri realized the city was lost, he went into the inner fortress of the palace and burned it down on himself. Only half of Israel supported Omri. The rest wanted to make Tibni king, but his supporters were defeated, and he was killed by Omri. Omri ruled for 6 years in Tirzah and then relocated the capital to Samaria, where he ruled for 6 more years. He was powerful, but he continued in the sin of Jeroboam. Elijah. When Omri's son Ahab became king, he plunged Israel even further into apostasy and provoked the Lord to greater anger than any of the other kings of Israel. He had married Jezebel, daughter of the king of Sidon, and devoted worshiper of Baal. I looked it up. I can't remember. Baal. Baal. And then he built a temple and altar for Baal worship in the capital city of Samaria. To challenge Baal worship, God raised up Elijah the prophet. Elijah confronted Ahab on numerous occasions with miraculous signs to prove that the Lord, not Baal, was the only true and living God. Elijah's ministry began with the announcement of a drought. He told Ahab, "As surely as the Lord lives, the God of Israel, It will not rain until I give the word." During the drought, the Lord cared for Elijah by a brook. The brook provided Elijah with water, and God sent ravens to bring him food each morning and evening. When he took the brook up, nope, I I didn't read that right. When even the book When even the brook dried up, God told Elijah to leave Israel and go to the village of Zarephath near Sidon. Zarephath in Phoenicia, a Gentile area. There Elijah went to the home of a widow. He asked her for water and bread, but she only had a handful of flour and a cup of cooking oil, which she planned to use to prepare a last meal for herself and her son. Elijah assured her that if she trusted him and fed him first, the Lord would provide for her until it began to rain again. So she did as Elijah had said, and Elijah had promised. The Lord miraculously provided flour and oil. When her son became ill and died, the woman thought Elijah was punishing her for her sins, but Elijah stretched himself out over the boy 3 times and prayed, "O Lord, please restore this child's life." Life returned to the boy, and Elijah took him to the widow. "Look," he said, "your son is alive." The woman said, "Now I am certain you are a man of God, a prophet of the Lord." In the 3rd year of the drought, the Lord told Elijah to announce to Ahab that it would end. Obadiah, a prophet of the Lord, arranged for the meeting. Ahab blamed Elijah for the drought and called him a troublemaker. Elijah replied, "You and your family are the troublemakers. You have not obeyed the commands of the Lord." Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal and Asherah to a contest at Mount Carmel, near the Mediterranean Sea in the north, the location of a major Baal worship shrine. Elijah told the prophets of Baal to sacrifice an animal on the altar of wood, then call on the name of their God, while he would call on the Lord. The God who consumes the sacrifice with fire is the true God. All of the people agreed that this was a fair test. Elijah allowed the prophets to make their sacrifice first. When nothing happened, he began to ridicule them. "Shout louder," he said. "Perhaps Baal is daydreaming or relieving himself. Or maybe he's on a trip or asleep and needs to be awakened." The prophets of Baal shouted louder and louder and even cut themselves with knives until they were dripping with blood. They danced and whirled around in a frenzy all day until the time of the evening sacrifice, but nothing happened. Baal was impotent. Not impotent, impotent. At the time of the evening sacrifice, Elijah called the people to come closer as he prepared the altar. He rebuilt it with 12 stones, one for each tribe of Israel, then dug a trench around the altar, piled on wood, and cut the bowl into pieces. He filled the trench with water, soaked the altar and sacrifice with gallons of water, and then offered a simple prayer. "O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prove this day that you are God in Israel, and I am your servant. O Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you are the Lord God and have brought them back to yourself." Fire from the Lord immediately consumed the sacrifice, the entire altar, and even the water in the trench. The people fell on their faces and cried out, "The Lord, He is God." Elijah ordered the people to seize all the prophets of Baal. They took them to Kishon Valley and killed them. Elijah returned to Mount Carmel and prayed for rain. He told his servant 7 times to look for rain, and the 7th time he saw a small cloud. The sky turned black and unleashed a heavy rainstorm. Ahab rode in a chariot to Jezreel to escape the torrential downpour, but the Lord enabled Elijah to outrun Ahab. When Ahab told Jezebel what Elijah had done, she swore by the gods that she would kill Elijah, just as she had killed all the other true prophets in Israel. Elijah was so afraid that he fled south towards Mount Sinai, a distance of approximately 200 miles. He felt defeated and prayed, "I can't take any more, Lord. Take my life." Instead, God sent an angel who encouraged Elijah and gave him food and water for his journey. After 40 days, he arrived at Mount Sinai and hid in a cave. The Lord appeared and asked, "What are you doing here?" Elijah complained that he had zealously served the Lord, but it was futile. The people had not kept their promises to serve the Lord faithfully, and he had killed all the prophets. I'm the only one left, and they are trying to kill me. The Lord told Elijah to stand outside the cave, and he would speak. The Lord sent a tornado like wind, an earthquake, and a fire, but he did not appear in any of them. Instead, the Lord spoke to Elijah in a calm, gentle voice, or a gentle, calming voice. He told Elijah to retrace his route, go through the land of Israel, and travel all the way to Damascus, northeast of Israel, to anoint 3 individuals: Hazael to be king of Aram, which is modern day Syria; Jehu to be the king of Israel; and Elisha to replace himself as prophet in Israel. The Lord said he would use these 3 to execute judgment on Israel. God also assured Elijah that there were 700 prophets in Israel who had not abandoned the Lord to worship Baal. Elijah obeyed and anointed Elisha as his successor by symbolically throwing his cloak over the shoulder of the young man. Ben-Hadad of Aram put together a coalition of 32 kings to attack Israel. He sent 3 delegations to offer terms of surrender. The first delegation demanded gold, silver, and hostages. Ahab agreed, but Ben-Hadad wasn't satisfied. Sacrificed. What am I saying? The second delegation wanted Ahab to grant Ben-Hadad's officials access to Ahab's palace. Ahab refused, so Ben-Hadad sent a third delegation with a terrifying message: "May the gods strike me if there remains enough dust from Samaria for a fistful for each of my soldiers." The attempt to intimidate did not work. Ahab was defiant, so Ben-Hadad ordered his forces to prepare to attack. Unexpectedly, a prophet came to Ahab and assured him of victory. Though outnumbered, he told Ahab to attack the enemy's army first. Ahab attacked at noon when Ben-Hadad and his troops were drunk from celebrating their victory even before they had mounted their chariots. The Israelites routed the Arameans. Ben-Hadad and a few of his officers escaped. Before he left, the prophet warned Ahab to prepare for a second attack next spring. Military campaigns were usually held spring and early summer, FYI. The following spring, Ben-Hadad's officers told him that they were defeated because the Israelite gods ruled the hills. They urged him to engage the Israelites on the plains where they would have the advantage with their chariots. This time, a man of God assured Ahab the victory not only for the sake of Israel, but as proof that the Lord is the only true God. When the 2 armies met on the field of battle, the Arameans again suffered staggering losses. Ben-Hadad was forced to beg for mercy from Ahab. Ahab let him live, but Ben-Hadad surrendered territory to Ahab and signed a treaty with him. Allowing Ben-Hadad to live was a mistake. God sent one of his prophets to announce judgment on Ahab. The prophet communicated the message symbolically by disguising himself as a wounded soldier. He told Ahab that he had been ordered to guard a prisoner, but the prisoner had escaped. Ahab said it was his own fault and that he deserved to die. The prophet then said to Ahab, "The Lord says, because you allowed the man the Lord ordered destroyed to live, you will die in his place, and the people of Israel will die instead of his people." Instead of repenting, Ahab became angry and went home. Ahab's defiant attitude led to another offense when he tried to buy Naboth's vineyard. He made a generous offer, but Naboth refused it. Ahab, sullen and brooding, refused to eat. Jezebel asked, "What's the matter?" Ahab complained that Naboth wouldn't sell him his vineyard. Jezebel said, "You were the king. Don't worry. I'll get you his vineyard." She forged Ahab's name on letters and sent them to the elders of Jezreel. The letters instructed them to call an assembly and get 2 reprobates to accuse Naboth of cursing God and the king. They did as Jezebel had instructed, and the elders stoned Naboth to death. When Ahab went to claim the vineyard, Elijah was there. The prophet announced judgment on Ahab. Because you have killed Naboth and attempted to steal his property, dogs will lick your blood in the very place where they have licked the blood of Naboth. Elijah also predicted that because they worshiped Baal, dogs would eat Jezebel's body, and all of the members of Ahab's family would be eaten by dogs and vultures. After Elijah's announcement, Ahab repented. He mourned and even wore burlap, so the Lord withheld judgment on his family until after Ahab's death. Following 3 years of peace, Ahab decided to go to war against Aram. Aram, I don't know. When Jehoshaphat, I remember this from my younger years of going to church like a non-heathen. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, was visiting. Ahab convinced him to join in a campaign to recapture the strategic city of Ramoth Gilead. Jehoshaphat agreed, but wanted prophetic confirmation before going into battle. So Ahab summoned 400 prophets of Israel. Though they all assured Ahab of victory, Jehoshaphat was suspicious. He said, "Is there another prophet? We should ask him." Ahab said that there was, I don't know if you say that's Micah, I'm going to say Micah. I don't know if that's right. But he hated him because Micah always prophesied disasters. Jehoshaphat was insistent, so Ahab ordered one of his officers to bring Micah. Ahab and Jehoshaphat dressed in their royal robes and sat on thrones near the gate of Samaria. Words are always hard for mom. Okay, although 400 prophets continued to predict victory, Micah said, "As surely as the Lord lives, I will only say what the Lord tells me to say." At first, Micah sarcastically promised Ahab victory. Who knew back in the Bible times people were sarcastic? Not me, but I guess they were. But Ahab knew it wasn't true. He demanded that Micah speak the truth in the name of the Lord. So Micah told Ahab that the Lord had sent a lying spirit to his prophets in order to entice Ahab to go into battle, where he would be killed. Ahab angrily ordered Micah imprisoned until he returned. Ahab disguised himself before going into battle, hoping no one would recognize him. One of the Aramean archers, however, fired an arrow that pierced his armor. Ahab ordered his chariot driver to take him from the field of battle. He remained propped up there all day, but bled to death as evening approached, with his arrow piercing his armor. When they realized Ahab was dead, his troops fled. Ahab was buried in Samaria, and the dogs licked his blood where the chariot was washed at a pool where the prostitutes bathed. Ahab's son, Ahaziah, again, I didn't get this far in looking up things. Ahaziah became king, but only ruled for 2 years. He worshipped Baal like his father and mother and practiced idolatry like Jeroboam. Ahaziah's life ended with a tragic accident when he fell through the latticework in one of the upper rooms of the palace. He sent messengers to the temple of Beelzebub to find out if he would recover. Elijah intercepted them and said, "Ask Ahaziah, is there no God in Israel? Why are you going to Beelzebub for help? You will never recover and get out of bed. You will die." Ahaziah sent 50 soldiers to seize Elijah, but he destroyed them with fire from heaven. Ahaziah sent 50 more soldiers, and the same thing happened. When Ahaziah sent the third unit, their officer approached Elijah on knees and asked for mercy. The angel of the Lord told Elijah to go with the third officer. Elijah repeated his message of judgment and told Ahaziah, "Because you sought help from Beelzebub rather than God, you will never recover. You will die in bed." Ahaziah died, as Elijah had predicted. Ahaziah's brother Joram became king because Ahaziah didn't have a son. Joram, who ruled for 12 years, was evil like his brother. but he did destroy some of the sacred pillars Ahab had built to worship Baal. Okay, 20 minutes. This was a long section. And guess what? Chapter 10 still isn't done, but it is for now. We will finish up chapter 10 next time, where we will start with Elisha, who I believe is a man that has kind of a woman's name. So maybe I'm saying it wrong. Maybe I'll look up and figure out before next time if I'm going to be wrong again, always. So never forget that I love you, and we will see you next time.